The tall silhouette of the spacious cab, the whistle of the turbo on the new powerful diesel engine, and two driving axles. This is exactly how the new masterpiece from the Minsk Automobile Plant looked, with the grandiose name SuperMAZ, which was supposed to start a modern chapter in Soviet automotive manufacturing and challenge the famous highway tractors from leading Western companies. But did it succeed? Why was it France that became the reason for the appearance of the SuperMAZ? What delayed the launch of this truck into production by a whole 12 years? And why did people start calling the SuperMAZ Superman? All the most interesting facts from the history of the leading truck of the Minsk Automobile Plant. You'll find out by continuing to watch our video. Get comfortable, grab some tea or something stronger, because we're about to take a real long-haul journey into history. The USSR, with its vast size, was a real headache for logisticians. 10,000 kilometers and 11 time zones. This isn't just a quick trip to the store for bread. Goods were mostly transported by rail because the roads were always a mess. They usually just called them by their routes, and there was a constant shortage of proper trucks. In the mid-60s, the situation was saved by the MAZ 504. Cab over, solid and impressive, it became the dream of long-haul truckers. After the hooded crocodiles or the Georgian kolkidas, which rumor had it would break down before even leaving the factory. The MAZ felt like a palace. The real breakthrough happened in 1968 with the appearance of Sovtrans Auto, the monopoly on international routes. The MAZ 500 series became the elite, starting to haul cargo for the Eastern Bloc. Oil and gas flowed like a river, foreign currency trickled in, and the Union started actively buying machinery from the capitalists. Equipment and scarce clothes for the elite, branded clothing, perfumes, and electronics for the Berioska currency stores. But the first truly serious trip beyond the Iron Curtain turned into an epic failure. Imagine Paris, the outskirts of the fashion capital. A convoy of MAZ 504s is marching grandly, carrying a shipment of shoes. And then, bam, one of the trucks blows an oil filter hose. The truck stops, and on the pristine European asphalt, a greasy stain starts to spread, as dirty as a bureaucrat's conscience, and oil steam. There was such a commotion around the truck that passers-by thought they were filming a horror movie about a Soviet transformer attack. The drivers tried to save the situation with rags and blue electrical tape, but their reputation was literally stained. The Ministry of Automotive Industry found out about the incident instantly. The verdict was harsh. The old MAZ 504 was not fit for capitalist countries. It lacked power, and most importantly, it was as reliable as a weather forecast. Officials told the folks in Minsk straight up, "Guys, your trucks are stuck in the last century. We're buying foreign brands." At first, the people in Minsk didn't believe it, but in 1974, the government approved leasing French money to buy Swedish Volvo F88 trucks. Then Mercedes-Benz joined in as well. Soviet long-haul drivers, after switching to Volvos, realized before this, they weren't really driving, they were suffering. After experiencing Swedish comfort, they remembered the old MAZ as a torture chamber. In the MAZ 500, the engine took up half the cab, roared right into your ear, and in the summer, roasted the driver like a rotisserie chicken. It was impossible to stretch your legs, and the steering wheel pressed into your stomach. The ceiling was low, like a real room from Fort Boyard, where the walls close in on you. There was only one bunk, and it was so narrow that the co-driver usually slept curled up on the seats in a fetal position. In Minsk, they realized something had to be done. A SuperMAZ, or else the factory would just turn into a warehouse for foreign spare parts. The work began with the study of foreign samples. Volvo, Mercedes, man, disassembled down to the last detail. They tried to take the best and adapt it to Soviet realities, where the main tool is an uncle with a sledgehammer and the unit of measurement is by eye. The first cab in 1972 looked modern, but its aerodynamics were like a brick's. At a speed of 90 kilometers per hour, the truck consumed so much fuel that you had to chase after it with a tanker, a fuel tanker. On top of that, the heavy cab didn't get along with the new engine, YAMS 238. It wasn't until 1974 that a version with a panoramic windshield and 3 wipers appeared. But money in the USSR flowed everywhere, like to the 1980 Olympics, just not to Minsk. The factory got pennies, and engines from Yaroslavl were delayed. New axles were in short supply. While the engineers fought for every single part, Sovtransavto kept buying foreign trucks. It wasn't until 1977 that axles and transmissions finally arrived at the factory. In 1978, the first 10 MAZ 6422s were assembled. It was out of this world. The press was buzzing, and drivers flocked to see it like it was a UFO. So what was so amazing about it? The cab was spacious with a panoramic view. It had spring-mounted seats. Now the driver's spine didn't get rattled to pieces every time they hit a bump. Noise and insulation. The engine no longer screamed straight into your brain. The engine tunnel got smaller. At its heart was a V8 turbo diesel with 320 horsepower. Brakes. Energy accumulators appeared. If the pressure in the system dropped, a spring would lock the brake pads and the vehicle would come to a dead stop, saving it from plunging into a ravine. Although the driver could end up flying through the windshield in the process. But there was no triumphant march. In 1981, the Supers were assembled almost by hand in an experimental workshop. The old 500s were still hanging on the main assembly line. It wasn't until 1984 that production moved to the main factory. In 1987, the tractors were upgraded. The engine was boosted to 360 horsepower. The radiator grille was made solid and rectangular. For the drivers, it was a real celebration. The grille became foldable. This made it easier to access the insides. The cab now had a fridge, a table, and even a rooftop air conditioner if you were lucky. To keep fuel consumption down, they added a spoiler. Now it was the MAZ 6421. The trucks became real workhorses for Sovtransauto. They racked up 700,000 kilometers. Drivers adored their Supers, customizing them with curtains, stickers, and giving them a soul of steel. The gearbox? It had a life of its own. The gear shifted according to the mood of the gearbox, not the driver. To figure out which gear it wanted today, you had to drive a couple thousand kilometers, and maybe make an offering to the gods of the auto industry. The heater, it shared its worth, as stingily as the government doles out foreign currency. On winter nights, drivers often looked like polar explorers on a drifting ice floe. The body rusted faster than you could say anti-corrosion treatment. Rust devoured the metal like a hungry college student. A free lunch. In 1989, people in Minsk realized, if you want to be better, make friends with the Germans. That's how the cooperation with MAN began. The result was the MAZ 64226. Soviet endurance and a German heart with 360 horsepower. With a 16-speed ZF gearbox, the truck was cool but expensive. That's why it never became mainstream. But it was this truck that gave rise to the name Superman. The YAMS turbo diesels kept getting better, and the SuperMAZ stayed relevant for a very long time. The last trucks rolled off the assembly line as late as 2010. It was this model that helped the factory survive the tough 90s, when everything around was falling apart. The SuperMAZ became a bridge between Soviet shortages and the modern market. It taught drivers to believe in their own domestic auto industry, even if that auto industry sometimes made them chatter their teeth from the cold or rustle with the gearbox. It was a great era of steel and character. Thank you for being with us. Give us a like if you remember the whistle of the MAZ Turbo, and share your own stories about this legend in the comments.